Hey friends, welcome back to the Proverbial Masterminds. I'm Erin. This is my friend, Dr. Sherry. We're excited to be back with you.
We are excited to be back with you today, and we are finally in chapter 23 of the book of Proverbs.
Can't even believe that.
I mean, wow.
What happened there? That happened so fast.
Now, however, I think that we finish in 2023, right?
We do finish in 2023. Yes. But you know what? It's only like 6 months away from now.
I know.
Which is insane. Okay, so friends, a little background. If you're new to watching us, thank you for being here. We're excited to see you. We'd love to hear your comments. We are just two daughters of the King minding the Master's wisdom. We've been walking through Proverbs since November of 2020.
Yes.
What?
Well, a verse a day. And so,
Okay,
to talk about that. So you'll notice in last week's episode and then in today's episode, we're doing things just a bit differently. So last week we did 6 verses. This week we're doing 8 verses. And that's just because we're going through these groupings of sayings that Solomon has written in pairs. So it makes sense to not split the pairs up. That's why we're doing it that way. So today we're going through chapter 23, verses 1 through 8.
Yes. And then we'll be back on track to the 7 verses. We promise.
If maybe, I don't know. I haven't looked at it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. Okay. So that's where we're going today. So Sherry read last week. I'm going to read this week from the New Living Translation in chapter 23. So here we go. While dining with a ruler, because you do that every day, pay attention to what is put before you. If you are a big eater, put a knife to your throat. Don't desire all the delicacies, for he might be trying to trick you. Don't wear yourself out trying to get rich. Be wise enough to know when to quit. In the blink of an eye, wealth disappears, for it will sprout wings and fly away like an eagle. Don't eat with people who are stingy. Don't desire their delicacies. They are always thinking about how much it costs. Eat and drink, they say, but they don't mean it. You will throw up what you have eaten, and your compliments will be wasted. Wow.
That's a mouthful.
That's good. No pun intended.
Pun intended. That's a mouthful. Speaking of eating and bread. Okay, let's start. So this one is actually a triad of verses. Mm-hmm. So when you sit down to eat with a ruler, consider carefully what is before you and put a knife to your throat if you're a man given to appetite. Do not desire his delicacies, for they are deceptive food. So this is interesting. So we just got done with the verse that says last week, verse 29 of chapter 22, you're going to stand before kings and stand before unknown men. Now, this is talking about when you sit down to eat with a ruler. Now, I just want to highlight that there for a second. I hadn't had this revelation until just now. But the first one is you will stand before kings. And this is talking about when you sit down to eat with a ruler. So there's a difference. There's a difference of serving before in an honorable capacity and being invited in a guest capacity.
Great point.
Right? So that, to me, that's what this is talking about, is being invited in a guest capacity. And when you are invited in a guest capacity, you have to operate under the assumption that there is, for a ruler, a potentially ulterior motive there.
Yes.
Okay. So I think about this like with, I don't know, the hobnobs and then the politicians and the hobnobs, who you rubbing elbows with, that kind of thing. Huh?
The hoi polloi.
The hoi polloi, yeah.
From a movie.
Yeah. Well, it's like really,
they're here to they got an agenda.
Right. There could be an agenda there. So don't just be like, wow, this is all for me.
Right.
There may be a price to pay there.
Yes. That's good.
Yeah, it's deceptive Gifting.
Yeah, that's right. And as they're deceptively gifting, they're really trying to entice you, just like this says, right? Don't desire his choice food. I mean, they're making it look
Ooh la la.
making it look so good
Right.
to draw you in,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah. Which to me goes back to what we talked about last week at the beginning as we were closing out 22. It really was about partnership and being careful who, who you're surrounding yourself with, being careful which tables you're sitting at,
Yeah.
being careful who you're collaborating with, like all of those pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be careful who you're partnering with.
There you go. Absolutely. I think, yeah, love all of that. Okay. 4 and 5. So I love that this says, "Don't wear yourself out to get rich," because I'm looking at the Christian Standard Bible because I wanted to look at it a little differently. Don't wear yourself out to get rich because you know better. Stop. Like
Right.
that's what it says, right? And that it is fleeting, right? And we know that. And I just want to read this commentary in my Charles Stanley Life Principles Bible, which says, does it seem like there's never enough money, etc.? That is the nature of wealth. No matter how you accumulate, you will always want more, which is why Jesus says in Luke 16:13, you cannot serve God and mammon. When you focus your energy on gaining riches, you cannot focus your attention on your intimate relationship with the Lord.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. I mean, time and again, we see how the pursuit of money
Yes.
it's corruptive to the heart.
Yeah. And just looking ahead here, this also has a note that refers us to Proverbs 27:24, which obviously we're not there yet, but in 27:24, just as a preview, it says, "For riches are not forever, nor does a crown endure to all generations." Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hang on. I got another one for you. If I have a good memory, I'm about to test myself and find out. Okay, that's not it.
God was showing you something different there.
Well, basically it's like don't trust in riches. It's a song.
Yeah.
I don't remember where it is, but riches are fleeting. In multiple places in the Bible, it says that riches are fleeting. And if you think about that, like anything can happen.
Anything.
The stock market can crash in a day, and everybody's retirements can be completely gone.
Right.
Completely gone.
Right.
I mean, like that.
That's right. This is the nature of the shifting sands of the world. It's why we're told in the New Testament to store up our treasure in heaven, that he needs to be our desire. And we talked a little bit about this last week too, that whatever the outcome is, knowing that we are protected. And again, not protected like in a prosperity way, but that whatever that outcome is, that it is for our good, the good of the kingdom, and to glorify him. And he gives us free will to choose that we will be steadfast in following him no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how it says, will you set your eyes on that which is not? Like essentially, it's not that money doesn't exist, but it's a reminder of even the faintest part of us. And God has certainly been teaching me this, that there is like security, all of our security, any sense of security has to be in him.
Oh yeah.
And not in money.
Right.
It cannot, because if it's in money, it can be taken away from us. The Lord is from age to age, right? He's Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. The Lord never goes away.
Ever. Yes.
Money goes away.
Yeah.
right? So putting our faith into something that can exist in this moment but not exist in the next, versus putting our faith into who was and who always will be.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. That's what this is saying. The other thing that strikes me too, though, is this kind of it's just a different kind of the other side of the looking glass. So will you set your eyes on that which is not, which we are required? Well, we're asked to set our eyes on that which is not. That's that which we don't see.
That's true. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of interesting that when you're looking at it this way, what he's saying is, when you look at the things that are eternal, you cannot see them, but they are.
Yeah.
So will you look on that which you think is, which is not?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's this really interesting approach, because then we look at the other things that we see and we think because we see them, they are real and they exist.
And they are lasting.
But they are not.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, that's good. I like that. Like, look at it from this. Oh, what's so fascinating to me, Sherry, is the more I read the Bible, and like, I often find myself sitting back and going, like, what?
Like
Like,
what?
this relates to that. And then he says it this way. And you're like, just this to me is why this is divine. Like, there's no way a human mind could think of this.
No, there isn't. And I want to share this because I had this experience this morning, and maybe I've had this experience before, but I never really thought of it in this way. So we do have an enemy who's actively trying to deceive us, right? Yes. And it's so important for us to answer the enemy with God's truth, like, right, with his word.
That's right.
So for this, like, I'm a believer. I've been a believer all of my life, varying degrees of devotion, right? But I've been a believer all my life, really seeking him in the last couple of years of my life, just really wanting to just have that be my all in all, as opposed to anything of myself. And may my heart always be in that position, but that's where I am right now in this season. But as I was getting ready this morning, this thought came into my head, and it was like, that's really absurd if you think about it. Like, Jesus, this random person, comes and dies, and now everybody's healed forever. And I bring that up for this reason, because the truth is simple, but the enemy will try to get you to depend on your own understanding and go, wait a second, that is way too, like, that's kind of like crazy to believe that.
Right.
Yeah. So why did that come up? For me, it came up because when the first 3 verses here are talking about deception, and the second 2 are talking about, but that's talking about the deception of others. This is talking about the deception of ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And Satan is the father of lies. He's a great deceiver. And so I just brought that up primarily because it was an experience I had this morning. And maybe somebody else who's watching this had a similar experience. And maybe you had this thought that wait a second, this is way too simple to be true, to be real. Right. That's the enemy. And so just respond to that with the truth of God's word, which is, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believes in him should live forever, not perish. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Oh,
so good. I love our conversations. Okay. All right. So 6 through 8. So we're back to food.
We are back to food, but this is interesting. This is another side of the coin from the first 3 verses of 23. So I'll read my translation, not my translation, but the translation that I have in front of me, New King James. Do not eat the bread of a miser, nor desire his delicacies, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. The morsel you have eaten, you will vomit up and waste your pleasant words. this is like, again, it goes back to what the first 3 verses were talking about, the intentions, right? The deceptive intentions of whoever you're partnering with. Be very sure that they are aligned with the Lord. Now, how do we know? Well, how do we know in this instance that this person that we're sitting down with isn't aligned with the Lord? Because they're a miser. And that means that they're trusting in the things that they see. They're holding fast to they're placing their security, their surety in what they see, which is money, which we just read in verses 4 and 5 will sprout wings and fly off.
That's right.
Right. So the miser, somebody who's tight-fisted, somebody who maybe doesn't give freely because they want to make sure they have enough, right? If that person seems to be benevolent or generous with you, but that is not their character, that is not who they are, don't eat with them, because soon enough you're going to vomit it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, who likes to vomit? But here's the other thing that sticks out to me in this. And this just hit me. So for a long time, I have known, since I gave my life to Christ in 2014, that so many personal development books, like, they're calling out Bible verses, and either they don't realize that they are, or they are and they're completely out of context.
Yeah.
So in 23:7, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. That is very, very often in many New Age, and I would say other books, referenced around like how we think about ourselves and how, our thoughts and that kind of thing. And I just was like, as I was looking at this going, but that is not what this is saying. Like, this has nothing to do with think the right thoughts.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with, like in the New King James Version, of the miser.
Yes.
And, what are really his intentions behind?
To hold fast to that which he cannot see.
Yes.
Or which he can see, I should say.
Right. It just, I'm just saying.
Right. No, absolutely. I think it's, as we think, so shall we be. And if we do think in terms of the miser, if we do think in reliance on the things that are created as opposed to reliance on the creator, then yes.
Yeah. So good.
So don't waste anything.
No.
Don't sit with them. Don't sit with the ruler, and don't sit with the miser.
That's right. Don't sit with the mean girls who only wear pink on Wednesdays.
Right. So we have a couple of options. Do you have anything else for that passage?
I don't. And I just was starting to look at how these verses are together as we continue in chapter 29, our friends.
Yeah. So we can do 9 through 16 or 9 through 14.
Well, let's do 9 through 14.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I think that looks better too, because 15 and 16 seem to go with the ones after that.
Yes. So next week we will be back with you live at 2 p.m. Eastern. So please tune in. We'll continue in chapter 23, but we'll be going verses 9 through 14. So follow along, comment, let us know where the Lord took you as you were reading through this. We'd love to hear from you. And share with your friends, follow, all the things. And we can't wait to see you live next week.
Bye, friends.
Bye, friends.